An interesting book that I read somewhat talks about this concept is Daily Rituals by Mason Curry.
Oh, okay.
Uh, I don't know if you've read it, but basically
No, I'm afraid I haven't.
it documents very famous artists, whether they be painters or writers or just creative people, and it shows their daily rituals, what they used to do, and similar to your book, a thread is that they were all incredibly obsessed with whatever they were doing. They would spend hours upon hours every single day just on their craft persistently for decades. And that's pretty much, it seems like the only way that you can get very, very good at whatever you want to do.
Yeah, it's interesting to me that like the motivation, how this works, because it's easy to look at that from the outside and be just sort of like they're just so dedicated and they're forcing themselves. But I think what happens is you get into this kind of motivational positive feedback loop. So you get in this situation where you have some early positive experience. It could be from being successful at it, but it could also just be from, oh, that's really cool or this kind of thing. And then you go a little bit deeper and you go a little bit deeper. And I think as you go deeper into something, you simultaneously get this kind of sense of accomplishment or this kind of good feeling about having gone deeper, as well as this negative absence where like what you have not yet achieved becomes more apparent and recedes into the distance. And so I think it just like pulls you forward, like it pulls you into it. And so I think that's almost a reason to get interested in the learning process itself, because the more you can get pulled into things, like I personally think it's a very positive thing. I know sometimes people, frame this in terms of like a negative feeling, because you always feel like, oh, I haven't done this at all yet. I still have to go so much further. But I think there's something really exciting about that in life, is to have these kind of new vistas open. Like to give a perfect example, like I started learning Chinese. It would probably be about 7 years ago now. And when I started, it was like, oh, this is kind of cool and it's interesting and I'm learning it. And I did this sort of intensive burst during the project, and I got like reasonably good at it. Like not at the vaulted levels of fluency, but like at a level where you could like, chit chat a little bit. And but it was just kind of like recognizing I'm here, but like I'd really like to be here. That then I just get sucked into it and you keep doing it. And like as I said with my friend giving the motivation, that like this kind of like, oh, there's still so much more that I don't know. That never goes away. It just keeps expanding, and you're like, oh man, but I don't know anything about this, or like, what's this then? And so I think it's like reading. It's like reading a murder mystery novel or something, where like once you open and you read the page, then you start pulling on it and you have to keep reading it. And so I think that's a really important part of life. And I think it's always great if the things that you get involved with in some way have some kind of inherent goodness to them, as opposed to just being some kind of trashy murder series on Netflix or something that you're like, oh yeah, I just binged like 400 hours of this or what have you. It'd be nice if the things that you get sucked into are also things that better you as a person.
Yeah, I definitely think there's some complacency that's afoot when it comes to that kind of stuff, because I think a lot of people are just like, well, I do my day job and I've got a family and that's kind of it. And I'm comfortable
as someone
with
who
that.
does his day job and has a family, like I totally understand. I mean, I think for a lot of people, just kind of keeping their head above water can be hard. It can be hard. You're exhausted at the end of the day. And so, you read like some book like, nah, I don't want to read that book. Like, I want to read the book about like how to make my life easier. And, I'm not here to really like push this upon anyone who doesn't feel that way. But I do feel that in that kind of wanting to, let's say, make life easier, make all the problems of life go away, I think it's often, that's a kind of negative quality, right? Like that's a kind of, I want to reduce the difficulties of my life, but it misses the positive thing. It misses the thing, like what was the thing to be really excited about, or what was the thing to drive you forward? And so I wanted to try to capture that a little bit in my book. Whether, the person who's wants to hear that is going to want to hear it is a totally separate thing. But I feel for me, that's just been something that has been really central to my life. Is it like, yeah, it's great if you can be slightly more efficient and work a little bit earlier so you can, relax and have a beer on the weekend or something like this. But I think it's oh man, that would be really cool. And, this is something that's going to impact me for the rest of my life. I think, that's what motivates me.
Thank you for watching this video. To listen to the full podcast, click the link in the description below.